Well, hello, and welcome back to another podcast episode with Brittney Bundles. You are listening to the Brittney Bundles podcast, where we empower people through entrepreneurship. Today, I want to pick up from where we left off last week. Last week was Thanksgiving, and I made a podcast episode going over things that I'm thankful for, in my life and my business. And I wanted to piggyback off of that in this episode. So today I'm going to be talking about allowing what we're thankful for to fuel our ambition. To fuel our ambition. There have been moments in my life where I have thought to myself, what's the point? What's the point of doing this? Especially when I was working my 9-to-5. As I've mentioned on different podcast episodes, everyone's journey is different. Not everyone's going to have the same perspective or the same life goals or the same understanding or the same decisions in their life. But I knew at that particular point when I was thinking those thoughts, I was in a place in my life where I wasn't happy. I was in a place in my life where I did not find fulfillment. And I was thinking, what is this for? What is this for? And although I could provide the short answer and say, or the simple answer and say, I'm going to work so that I can pay my bills, I wanted it to be more than just that. I wanted to get up and do something that led to more than just a paycheck. And that was what I wanted for my life. I wanted to be able to not only get paid, but I wanted to be fulfilled. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to feel like my skills and my gifts were being used. And I made some decisions to change that reality that I was living into the reality that I wanted to live. So I'm going to talk about today how what I'm thankful for actually fuels my ambition. It keeps me going. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate. There are a lot of people, I'm sure, that have been in places in their life that they've had to question and to ask themselves, what are we doing? And how do we want to continue? And so if you've been there, then it's very easy, in my opinion, in my life, to appreciate all of the advancements and to appreciate the progression in my life. I appreciate everything that I have. I appreciate everything that I've learned. I appreciate where I've come from. I appreciate the journey. And that's what fuels my ambition. Let's talk about it. Get ready. Get set. Here's another podcast episode. All right. So again, welcome back. The first thing that I want to start off talking about is pinpointing what we want more of in life and thriving towards it. Again, we're talking about allowing what we're thankful for to fuel our ambition. And I'm also going to be touching on, like I touched on a minute ago, how what I'm thankful for fuels my ambition. So the first thing that I want to point out is pinpoint what we want more of in life and let's thrive towards it. So even in my darkest times, and know me working a 9-to-5 was not just my darkest time and, the darkest time in my life. I've gone through a lot of things in life, things that I've talked about on this podcast and things that I have not talked about at this point. However, even in my darkest moments, there were still things that I was grateful for. There were still things that I was appreciative for. There were still moments that I embraced. There were still lessons that I learned. And a lot of times it was necessary, looking back, it was necessary for me to go through what I went through, for me to arrive at the destination that I'm currently at. But what I used to challenge myself to do in my darkest times is to pinpoint what I wanted more of. And that can be hard to do, especially when you're not looking around and seeing the life that you envision yourself living a part of your reality. That can be challenging to do when you feel disappointed in the decisions that you've made or disappointed in where your life has gone. But if we can take a moment to stop and think about what we're actually thankful for, that can begin the thoughts and the journey and the rebuilding of our mentalities and our hearts. Sometimes we are tapped out of trying our best because our heart has been broken from life. Doesn't even have to be a relationship, from life. Our dreams have been broken. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we're trying each and every day to put those pieces back together. And I couldn't have done it by myself. And I talk about on my podcast, my journey with growing my relationship closer to God. I can't do it on my own. And so in order for me to make sure that I'm whole, I have to go to my Creator. I have to go to my Creator. And so that's what I did. So along with pinpointing what I wanted more in life, I started to thrive more towards that. So I knew, even working a 9-to-5, let's use that for an example, I knew that I wanted more time with my children. So I started to thrive towards that more. What can I do? How can I arrange my life, even with this 9-to-5, so that I have more time with my children? Because that's what I'm thankful for. That provides me happiness. That's a sense of fulfillment for me as well, being with my family, being with my children, and being able to see them grow. What else do I like in life? What else do I enjoy in life? What else do I love in life? Well, I love being able to get up and go. I love being able to choose my schedule. I don't necessarily want to have to clock in at a certain time or clock out at a certain time. And although there's nothing wrong with that, if that's the choice that you decide to take in your life. Again, this is not an entrepreneurial podcast, and I'm not an entrepreneurial motivator where I say or where I believe that you have to forget all 9-to-5 opportunities in order to be successful or in order to be happy or fulfilled. I'm not saying that at all. There are some 9-to-5 jobs that are necessary to work with the cards that you're currently being dealt in order for you to be able to fund your dreams, in order for you to be able to fund your business. And I completely understand and respect it. I've been there. But I wanted to point out that that's something that I did, that I started with. I started looking at what I'm thankful for and pinpointing what I wanted more of. So I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for that. And I want more of it. So how can I get more of it? How can I get more of it? And without me focusing on climbing out of my dark places, it began to happen almost naturally, because I was no longer sitting down or sitting around focused on what was not going right and what I hated about this certain circumstance. I was now focused on what I'm grateful for, even in the midst of my troubles, even in the midst of my struggles. And I was finding a way to add more of that into my life. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is pinpointing where we never want to go back to and working our hardest to not revisit. So this is another way that we allow what we're thankful for to fuel our ambition. Remember your lowest points. Where were you when you were in your lowest points? What were you doing? How did you feel? One thing that I had to really work on was understanding and accepting my feelings on certain things. That was something I really had to come to terms with, because so often I would allow my life to continue to go, and not really slow down to actually allow myself to feel. Are you hurt right now, Brittney? Are you disappointed? Do you feel discouraged? And allowing myself to sit in those feelings, not get stuck in those feelings, but allowing myself to feel, so that I can know how it feels in this position, how it feels with these choices, so that I'll never want to go back to that certain place. And working my hardest to not revisit it. Sometimes people ask, what keeps you motivated? Why are you ambitious? Everyone has a starting place. And although your starting place doesn't necessarily have to be the darkest place in your life, there are times that you go through, that a lot of us have gone through, that were not happy times, not happy seasons, and they were necessary. And so every day I work my hardest to make sure that I don't revisit where I've grown from. And that takes intentional actions. That takes intentional thinking. That takes intentional planning. So what I'm thankful for, everything that I have, and I'm not just talking about materialistic things. I'm talking about family, peace of mind. I remember, and I'm going to bring up this 9-to-5 again. I remember some days I used to go into my job and I would literally sit in my car. I've talked about this on some other podcast episodes, as well as on my YouTube channel at Brittney Bundles. So if you haven't checked me out there, please do so in your spare time. But I used to cry in my car because I just did not have peace of mind. I had a paycheck, and I had different things that paycheck allowed me to get. And I had different things to be grateful for. But one thing that I just didn't feel like I had was peace of mind. I would feel so stressed. And I would just want to take a mental health day, a mental health break away from my job. I couldn't, but I wanted to. I really wanted to. And knowing now that I'm able to schedule and structure my day in a way where I don't feel overwhelmed, or I don't feel like I can't take a break right now. I can take a break when I want to take a break. And I thank God for it, and I don't take it for granted. So that fuels my ambition, me being able to stay at home and homeschool my children. There would be days that I would cry about being away from my children because of how long I had to work. Being a single mother with 3 children, it wasn't easy. It's not easy. But someone had to do it, right? Someone had to do it. But I'm ambitious and I'm motivated, knowing that I don't want to go back to when I had to struggle. I don't want to go back to not knowing what's going to happen, or if this is going to happen, or if I can pay for this, or if this will get taken care of. I don't want to go back. And although at a young age, I did start a job, and the job paid really well. Like I said, there was always a give and a take. Yeah, I'll pay you, but in return, you're going to have to work mandatory overtime. And in return, no, you're not going to be able to be there with your baby as much as you want to be. And so I'm just thankful for everything that God has done in my life. I'm thankful for everything that he's doing in my life and everything that he's going to do. God has done so much in 2020 in my life that I can't even sit here on this podcast and explain everything. It's amazing. He's moved different people out of my life and put different people in my life. He's changed my thinking. He's changed my heart. He's stuck with me. He showed me who to depend on. And that was ultimately him. God's working. But I'm allowing what I'm thankful for. I'm allowing where I'm at now to not push me or take me back to the place that I never wanted to be in again. And again, I'm not just saying it's a 9-to-5 scenario. I'm just speaking from my experience and for what I wanted in my life. I'm thankful for everything that God has done. The next thing that I want to talk about is understand and identify what and where your distractions are, and start creating healthy alternative routes. So sometimes in order for our lives to continue to move forward, in order for us to keep our ambition, our motivation, our inspiration, we have to identify where we're becoming distracted at. What are we focused on the majority of the day? Are we focused on all of the problems that surround us, or are we focused on finding solutions? Are we focused on things that really don't matter? I made a podcast a few episodes ago about pointless and purposeful behaviors and actions. Are we investing into pointless activities, or are we investing into purposeful activities that are going to move us closer to where we want to be in life? So I'm thankful that I can identify some of my distractions that I couldn't see before, not even a year ago. Some things that I was investing time into that really wasn't going to yield any value in the end. So what are we focused on? Not just identifying, but understanding. You see, I'm a why person, so I like to get behind the why. For some people, it gets on their nerves. They're like, Brittney, it is what it is. It just is what it is. But for me, I get it is what it is. But I want to know why it is what it is. Explain to me why it is what it is. But what I like to do is look closely to what I'm trying to overcome and understand why I got in that position in the first place. Because for me, that's the way that I learn. If I understand, I can understand where I'm at. But if I don't understand how I got where I'm at, how am I going to ensure that I don't do the same steps again to lead me back where I don't want to be. You know what I mean? If I don't understand how or why I was distracted by this or allowed myself to be distracted by this, how can I ensure that I'm not going to do it again? So the why matters to me. So not just identifying what what and where our distractions are, and, that's fine, but also understand. And that's going to take some deeper soul searching. That's going to take some actually looking at yourself in the mirror. That's going to take some, not just brushing it over. Like I'm here where I'm at. So, okay, we here. But why? How? So that we can make sure we're not doing the same behaviors so that we don't have the same outcome next year. Because a lot of times when I do consultations, a lot of people have told me that their discouragement has come after trying and trying and trying with no results. And regardless if you feel like there's no results or not, there's going to be some results. There may not be the results that you want it to happen, but everything has an outcome. But I want to make sure that everything that I'm investing in has a positive outcome. Now it's life. So, there are going to be some things that come in your life that you didn't expect, no matter how well you plan. But understanding why we're doing what we're doing and understanding why we allowed or how we allowed certain things to come into our life and distract us from what we were planning on doing is very important, in my opinion, in making sure that we stay ambitious. So I can look back and I can say, you know what? I'm thankful that I can spot out distractions that I couldn't see before. Because I want to make sure that I'm sticking on my path. I want to make sure that I'm continuously being inspired by what's to come. So understand and identify where your distractions are, what they are, and then start creating healthy routes. So not only are we understanding and identifying, but now it's time to say, okay, what can we do differently? I'm thankful that I was able to find out what the underlying issues were. Now, what can I do to make sure that I pick myself back up and I continue on, but in a different manner? We're still striving for the same goal, but in a different way. The next tip that I have in relation to allowing what we're thankful for to fuel our ambition is continue giving thanks throughout it all. No matter what I'm going through, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, there's always something to be grateful for. There is always something to be grateful for. Sometimes I'm even in conversation with people and I may chuckle and they may say, well, that's not funny. And it may not be funny to you, but see, when I smile, when I chuckle, that's the joy that I can't keep in. Because I know that what the enemy meant to destroy me, God used it for my good. And so I'm not here to have a pity party. I'm not here to talk about everything that went wrong in my life without explaining how I was able to correct it. I'm not here to talk about all of the thoughts that I had that were negative without talking about what I decided to do to switch that around. I'm not here to talk about everything sad that happened in my life without explaining the lessons that I took from it. So I chuckle a lot of times when I'm talking about things that I've gone through because I'm so thankful that God brought me through it, because it didn't have to be that way. It did not have to be that way. I don't take it for granted. I smile. And I continue giving thanks through it all. There are some times I can't help but to thank God for everything he's done. No matter where I'm at in life, no matter what I'm going through, I'm thankful for what God has done. So no matter what, continue giving thanks through it all. That's also going to help you. It's helped me continue to stay motivated, because you're feeding your thoughts with positivity. You're feeding your thoughts with faith. You're feeding your thoughts with the idea that something can happen, that you still have work to do, that God woke you up today because your assignment is not done. You still have a purpose. You still have a plan. Now, whether you decide to fulfill that purpose and plan, that's all up to you. I mean, God gives us free will, but the point is there's still hope. So I'm thankful because there's hope, and that keeps me ambitious. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm hopeful and I'm faithful to believing what God says will happen. The last thing that I want to talk about is understanding how important our ambitious attitude is. It's important to have an ambitious attitude. It's important to keep going because it's contagious. Have you ever been around someone? I know I have. And they may have had a bad day, or maybe they're in a bad season. And no matter, what happens, one day, you may think that they're coming out of it. They may call and you may hear a little cheerfulness in their voice. And then the next day it seems like it's completely gone. And you just don't hear any hope, no happiness, no inspiration, nothing in their voice. And then you see them and then you look in their eyes and you don't see anything there. There's no life, and you feel bad. You pray about it and you try to talk to them and console them, but you feel bad about it. And what I had to do is I had to challenge myself on focusing on my energy as well, because being around someone that's not happy or doing well can have an impact on how you're viewing your life, and it can have an impact on how you feel. But if you're a true friend and if you're caring about that person, then you want to make sure that you're there. But how without it stopping your mood? Well, this is what I've done. And this is what has shown to work in my life. I focused on maintaining an attitude of gratitude. I focused on continuously being ambitious. And I've learned that it's contagious. You're down, but I'm going to continue to lift you up. You're frowning, but I'm going to continue to smile. You're crying, but I'm going to continue to maybe cry with you and to pray about it and to speak life into you. And remembering that this too shall pass. Remembering that there's still hope. So what I've decided to do, what I've begun to do is to allow my attitude to be contagious. And it's not even me allowing it, because honestly, whether you decide to allow or not, your attitude can definitely be contagious. So I try to check myself on being ambitious and on being motivational and inspirational, because I understand that my journey and my purpose affects more than just me. And so our ambitious attitude is contagious. My children, sometimes they get motivated by hearing different things that I'm talking about. I'm not even aware that they're listening at that moment on different conference calls and things like that. And they're like, wow, Mom, remember when you said this? That's how I know I can do this. I even caught my 10-year-old in his room doing a presentation. He was speaking to himself on a phone. He's actually recording himself talking. And I was so happy. I don't force them to do anything that they don't want to do as far as career wise. I don't do that. But it is very exciting to see them knowing that they can do anything and having a reference to look at. And that's what we all want to strive for. Remember that your attitude is contagious. Remember that there are people watching you. There are people depending on you. And that may seem like a lot to wear on your shoulders. That may seem like a lot. But if you think about it in the reality of the fact that we're all placed here to help each other, that we're all a part of this big family, it doesn't really feel like a big weight to me. Especially when I'm operating in my purpose. It feels like something I'm supposed to do. And honestly, it comes natural. The more you practice being positive, the more you practice being ambitious, the more you practice staying motivated, the more it becomes second nature. So today I'm going to continue to allow what I'm thankful for to fuel my ambition. I'm going to continue thinking about what I have, where I came from, what I want, where I'm going, who I'm impacting, how I'm growing. I'm going to continue to remain humble and thankful for all of that. And that is what fuels me to continue to go. So the next time that someone says, how do you stay motivated? Why are you so ambitious? maybe send them this podcast episode and explain to them your journey. Share your journey. You have a story to tell as well. Let's start doing it. I do want to thank you all for tuning into this podcast episode. As I say, always, I don't want this to end. If you have any comments or if you have any podcast topics that you'd like discussed on this podcast, please feel free to email me at Btalks, that's BTALKS, @yahoo.com. Also, if you'd like your business, your services or products featured on this podcast, please send me an email to btalks@yahoo.com as well. You can also check me out on YouTube at Brittney Bundles. That's Brittney Bundles, BRITTNEY, Bundles, BUNDLES. I'm on Instagram, Brittney_Bundles, Twitter, Brittney Bundles, Facebook, Brittney Bundles. Until next time, I'll talk to you on the next podcast episode.